So next up, we've got Renee, and the bio is just nice and short. Sysadmin with delusions of grandeur. I mean, you can't get better than that. So, Renee, you're on mute right now, but feel free to join in and talk to the guys. Oh, there's no audio, Renee.
Does that click? Yeah, that clicky button appears to work.
There we go. Fantastic.
All right. Well, I'm pretty much prepped and ready to go. So yeah, if we want to do the thing.
Yep, go for it.
Now, where's the button to say share my screen?
Down the bottom, the green button.
Yep. Share. All right, I'll leave you guys up on screen.
We can see it.
Yep, you're all good to go.
All right, this is good news. So yeah, I have come up through the ranks as a desktop support jockey, sysadmin, done all of the front end dirty work, given the poor infrastructure and said, make it work. And my talk today is going to cover a little bit of the wacky things, the silly things, the oh my God, you did what things that I have discovered while being a Unix sysadmin working in all kinds of environments. I've come through banks, I've done defense, I've done state government, I've done tertiary education, and every single one of them has got some oh dear God face palm moments that they have created in their infrastructure. My current feeling of work is that I'm doing a lot of system automation and orchestration, so working with Puppet, Ansible, various types of scripting, with a view towards providing metrics, data, knowledge up to the business layer so they can learn how to make better decisions. All right, we shall start. No, come on, clicky, do the clicky. Right. Please be aware, some of the stuff that I have discovered will make you cringe. If you have a propensity towards splurting your coffee through your and onto your keyboard, I recommend putting your coffee cup down now. We'll start with, why would you want to automate your user account creation process? We know that we want to give least privilege access to our application admins, our sysadmins, our end users. What happens when you don't? Well, you have what happens when I turned up at a recent engagement where I looked at my account and went, I have enterprise admin. Why do I have enterprise admin on a, check that, a single domain account? No trees, no forests, but 12 people had enterprise admin on their account. This included 2 service accounts. I kept digging into my account and went, all right, there's a bunch of other privs in here that will be useful. They're not necessary, but they're useful. So I can have, I've got full control over the Confluence site, the Jira apps. All right, I'm not nominally employed as a sysadmin for this role, but I've got the skills, I can do that. Wait, I've got domain admin again. I did a quick scan through that particular forest, or that particular set of user privs, and did a count on how many people had domain admin privs. For a business unit which had 43 people in a total organization of I think about 110, we had 65 accounts with domain admin, 4 service accounts, and 2 computer objects, and about 20 people who had left, but accounts were still active. what we take away from this is build process that follows from when you bring a person into your organization. Have a process that you just click 3 or 4 buttons, they're in, all the magic happens in the background. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about getting it right or getting it wrong. There is a process that has been automated that saves you these pains. And same again, when it's time for people to leave your organization, have all the automation put in the background such that it's not the sysadmins doing the work. It can be an HR person who just says, clicky button, the accounts get disabled, and then a period of time later, they lock themselves, they shut down, and we don't leave gaping security holes behind in our infrastructure. A minor other one is wrapped around Unix root access, where we have a similar proof of the account which can do anything and everything on your server. In most scenarios, root access is really only necessary when you're doing your initial build of a server, and then during serious recovery issues. 99% of a server's life, you don't need it. So you rarely log into it. You let your automated tools do the monitoring. You let your service accounts do the management. You split off responsibility of processes into a web server. You let your web server process handle its stuff. You segregate things. But when you have an environment that is poorly managed, you end up with your SSH root being allowed. And then, as I discovered, when I went to say, all right, who's logged into the Bastion host today so I can find out who's on site that I can have a conversation with to talk about this particular issue I found. I have 6 roots logged in and they're all remote. All right, remote root SSH access is enabled on the Bastion host, and they have SSH as root to all of their application servers. That entire team was using root everywhere. They used it for copying files, they used it for anything and everything. I had the epic facepalm that day. I almost walked out of the building and said, I can't work with this job. This is too much. This is beyond reasonable for, oh my God, what the fuckery. The root cause was we had 4 directory trees running in that environment, 4 independent authentication sources, none of which had been properly deployed, or which so they'd been deployed. Some servers had been tied against them, and then another directory tree had been deployed because reasons, and more servers were tied to the new one. So there's no consistency of authentication across our entire environment. You needed to be, we had, I think, about 8 passwords just to get to the 6 or 7 servers that team were managing. Away from access to reporting on our systems. I like metrics. I like being able to give metrics to my colleagues. I like being able to say, hey, here's some pretty graphs which demonstrate that this 5 p.m. every Friday, this server has a concern. We can go and have a look at it. Too many environments I've come across have no monitoring, just none. Or should I say, the monitoring system is the users. When something goes wrong, a person walks up to your desk and says, hey Joe, I can't get into the production finance system. Have you said, do you know anything wrong with that? And you go, wait, I'll check in on that. No, please, no, never let that happen. Never let that be the norm for your organization. Have it be where you can say, yes, I'm aware of that. You know, Billy Blow over in apps is fixing that. He's aware of it. We've got it under control. We should have a response back to you in maybe next 10, 15 minutes. Or the best one that I've come across was when somebody has an issue, they wander down to your desk and go, hey, there's an issue. And you go, yeah, we got that 5 minutes ago, it's fixed already. And by the time they're back at their desk, by the time they've reached you, the problem has been resolved. But I've come across, I lose count now of the number of times when I've been assigned to an organization and there's been no event, no syslog event aggregation, not even on the Windows kit, which is really easy to do. Monitoring is at best minimal. Fault reporting is your colleagues and end users wandering around the building telling you about what's gone wrong. And you get, as what I said down the bottom, users. I'm frustrated about this. But there are better things we can do. There are more things we can do to make it. Users can do whatever they like, but when sysadmins and developers are pushed into the world of testing in prod, you get all kinds of strange stuff happening as well. I had the horrid case of a couple of years ago where a piece of work that I was doing a proof of concept on was suddenly said, this is now live. You have to use this in production. And the two of us working on it were just like, aha, hell no, this is not ready. This has got another 3 months worth of development work in it before we can even consider putting it to test, let alone production. I said, no, we want to be using it now. I'm like, we got to develop in prod, which meant that we got to develop for all of the nice, lovely edge cases we had in prod. But our development cycle was just thrown out the window. We came out of that, I think, about 8 weeks worth of work with no documentation. We had to go through and then review everything and put all of the code back into our dev environment, roll up the documentation, redo all the tests, and then run it through the test environment and into prod. But why? Why were we pushed to develop in prod and not actually functionally run it through our dev, test, prod, regular type deployment process? It was because none of us could trust the environment in dev. It was significantly different enough again from test that any work we did in dev was effectively redeveloped in test, and test was once again different enough from production that we had to redo all the testing again anyway. So our business process and our business flow went, it's going to be cheaper and easier to do all the development in prod. What we come away from this is security comes from operational excellence is a phrase I came across on Twitter a couple of years ago, and I write it down on every whiteboard that I come across in my workplaces these days. The concept of operational excellence to me means that you give your front end ops staff sufficient tooling to do their job. You train them, you give them the knowledge and the skills such that they are competent at doing their job, so that they're not overwhelmed or constantly fighting for knowledge to work out how to do the issue that's just risen in front of them. They can look at it and go, oh yeah, I've seen this before. You know, my senior talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I know where to find the doco, I know where to find the process, and I'm comfortable going through and resolving this issue. You don't want your front end staff constantly searching for the process and the paths of how do I do this? You give your infrastructure sufficient management that it is stable, that all of your implementations are consistent, so that when you deploy, say, a Red Hat 8 SOE server, you have a standard SOE which goes out and is standard. You know that there's going to be a certain config across every server in your network. It's not going to be, oh yeah, these ones are talking to this NTP server over here, and these ones are talking over to that one over here, and these ones never got configured, so they're talking to, the pool servers from, the default OS configuration. Just little things like that I have seen where NTP did configured. Just it led to inconsistent behavior on our systems. You automate your deployment tooling. You automate your process creation. Your processes become automated. You get fewer customizations turning up in your environment. Your dodgy hacks that you have to use to work around a single thing, sure, we have to do them, but they get documented. They become part of the build process. Everyone is aware of what's happening so that you don't get your unintended consequences. You get your documentation you're being an accurate representation of what your environment actually is. So I'm going to open up for questions in a couple of minutes and discussions and shared rants, but remember that within infrastructure, if there is a problem that cannot be, if there's a problem in process, people will work around it. Their end aim is to do their job. They may not want to, they may not see it as a good or a bad thing. They just see it as, I need to do this thing so that I can meet the requirements that a project manager or the business has placed upon me. And all concepts of security, of good process, of good implementation go out the window. They may not be aware of them. They don't see them. They don't understand the consequences or the problems that they cause from their decision choices. Do manage your privilege access and your concept of least priv when you're creating accounts and when you're bringing staff in. Have a security model for users, groups, applications, computer objects. Make your monitoring, your logging, your capacity management, data collection just automatic. Have it built into the OS, into your SOE, so that when a computer goes onto the network, be it a network switch, a Linux box, a Windows machine, it gets chatty with all of the data aggregation tooling that you have out there. And the one thing that I always take away, that I always try and talk and stick into people, is that security, it's a mindset. It's not just a slap a band-aid on a thing and it's done. It is not, we've got some policies, we're secure. It is not, here is our standard procedures. It's all of these things. It's the people. You keep your people on side, you keep your people well maintained, your infrastructure becomes well maintained. Your processes become well maintained. Your business works. So, thank you. That is me done.
Thank you very much for that, Renee. I know I was personally cringing a lot at some of the examples. I think it's really useful and interesting to understand automation. And one of the things you sort of brought up is the assurance of the automation. If you automate something and you've documented it, then you know that's what it's going to do. And so having that, so you know that your system is designed the right way, and you know that everything is, doing what it should, then it's perfect. So thank you very much for that. I know that